Thank you, everyone. One more second before we get started, just for everyone to gather their settings and seats if you have a seat. All right, it is 6:01. We will go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Andrew Knapp, and I have the honor of serving as president of the Downtown Residents Council, the formal community council serving Cincinnati Central Business District. On behalf of our board and our newly formed Public Safety Committee, I want to welcome you to tonight's special community meeting, organized by the community for our downtown community. In respect of that, we ask that everyone be respectful of tonight, respectful of our speakers, and respectful of each other. We are grateful to see so many of you here. It speaks to the level of concern and care that residents, business owners, and stakeholders share about the future and safety of our livability in our downtown. We also thank the many community leaders and city council members in attendance, as well as guests tuning in, and neighbors and civic partners, including council members Albee, Owens, Cramerding, Jeffries, and County Prosecutor Connie Pillage. Tonight's forum comes into response of months of concern brought to the DRC by our residents, business owners, and neighborhood leaders across the Central Business District. Our goal is simple: to provide a space where community members can hear directly from civic leadership, ask meaningful questions, and participate in respectful dialogue in shaping the solutions that will impact our Central Business District and urban core. We are honored to be joined by 4 individuals whose leadership is essential to these efforts, including Mayor Aftab-Pureval, City Manager Sheryl Long, Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Theetge, and 3CDC President and CEO Steve Leeper. Our event format: we will begin with presentations from our panelists, who will speak for the next 45 minutes. They've been provided a set of community-submitted questions in advance that were submitted by DRC residents and stakeholders, which may help guide their remarks. Following their presentation, we will move into a moderated question and answer period. During the program, we ask attendees to write down their questions and indicate to which panelists they will be directed to.
I think you need to speak a little bit louder for them to hear the back there.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Just recentering ourselves for the evening. Following the presentation, we will move into a moderated question and answer period. During the program, we ask you as attendees, prioritizing our downtown residents and stakeholders, to write down your questions and to indicate to which panelist the question is directed to. The Downtown Residents Council team, led by Chase Mozajowski, our Vice President. Chase, can you raise your hand? Sue Byram. Sue, can you raise your hand and stand? And Jim Beering, our Downtown Residents Council. Jim, can you stand and raise your hand? I don't see Jim, but Jim is around, I promise. Thanks, Jim. Jim is in the back. The DRC team will collect and read these questions aloud to help maintain a respectful, focused, and concise conversation. Thank you again for your presence this evening. With that, I would like to turn it over to our panelists and Mayor Aftab-Pureval to begin with opening remarks. Thank you, and please remember to be silent so all attendees can hear. Thank you again. And please silence your phones if able. Thank you. There was one question that we just received. If you do have questions, there are note cards in the back that we ask, as long with pens, that if you wish to grab note cards while the presentations are ongoing, please do so. We'll collect your questions as they come. Thank you.
She's just getting more.
Good afternoon. Good evening. right? We're talking about evening. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, I do have a loud voice and it carries. So that's why I'm in the role I am, because I talk very loud in the room. Okay, so good evening. Thank you, Downtown Resident Council, for inviting us to be here tonight to speak directly to our citizens and address some of your concerns. Thank you all for being here. Chief Theetge will speak about police intervention in a moment, but I'm going to begin by talking about our violence reduction blueprint. You all care. That's why you're here. You could be doing anything else, but you are here learning about what we're trying to do, and we are appreciative of that. Okay. So Cincinnati is a comprehensive strategy to prevent violence, in particular gun violence, by addressing root causes through a public health approach. Cincinnati provides us with a framework to invest in long-term solutions while being flexible to add new initiatives to respond to new challenges. Cincinnati is based on 5 pillars. They are thriving neighborhoods, reduced accessibility of firearms for youth, improved well-being, improved youth support, evidence-based policing innovations. I'll go into a little bit more detail. We know life and disinvestment contribute to poverty and crime rates. Thriving neighborhoods is about driving economic development and community investments to revitalize and problem solve at a grassroots level. This includes funding through Boots on the Ground, Safe and Clean, and the Human Service Fund. We have teams who are regularly out in the community, cleaning up trash, painting over graffiti, and beautifying community spaces to make sure they are safe for our residents to use. These same organizations are investing in workforce development and gun violence reduction at a grassroots level. It takes a comprehensive approach, with everyone at the table taking part in the solution to achieve real, lasting change. A critical component to this work is reducing the accessibility of firearms to kids. We do this in several ways, including using innovative technology at our Crime Gun Intelligence Center, encouraging safe firearm stores and providing free gun locks, lobbying our state and federal partners to change policy to allow common sense legislation that will reduce gun violence. We are in an environment where everyone has a gun. It is easier to get a gun than it is for some kids to go to a movie theater. How can we work in collaboration and what we are doing with our state and federal partners to make sure that we are raising to their attention the things that cities are facing firsthand? And where we can, we're passing local laws to ensure responsible gun ownership. We have done that, and at times, we have got challenged by the Supreme Court. But the effort is still something that policymakers are doing. Cincinnati also focuses on improved mental health and emotional well-being. We are seeing, coming out of 2020 and even before, there are a lot of people suffering from mental health. Last year, we introduced the Hope and Shield Network, our hospital-based violence intervention program by UC Health and Cincinnati Children's, which is an immediate touch point with gunshot victims to interrupt the cycle of violence. When they are at the hospital, are suffering from gun violence, when they are shot, that is the best time to give them that choice to see, are you ready to get access to services to change your life? We are trying to prevent those from re-offending, to being a victim again. That is important. So supporting the victims and witness of gun violence while working with Karen Rumsey and her team at CPD, this is important to protect all of our loved ones. And our Cincinnati Recreation Commission staff and CPD youth services officers are undergoing trauma-informed care, training to be better, meet the needs of the community they serve. We have to be careful with every touch that we have with the people that we are servicing, because we have no clue what they have been dealing with. So to make sure that our workforce is trained to have those engagements is very important. In my mind, the key to truly seeing a long-term reduction in gun violence lies with our youth. So we try every possible avenue to create positive experience, opportunities, and interaction for kids in our community. We do this through programming with our parks and recreation teams. We are continuously problem solving and saying, what is the gap? What can we do? How can we do it? And how can we show up? We do this by hiring kids across departments for part-time jobs that can lead to a long-term careers with the city. And I personally do this by meeting with incredibly young people who are part of our Youth Managers Advisory Group. And lastly, evidence-based policing innovations are at the core of what we do and how we make public safety decisions. We are committed to problem solving as we address localized crimes in our neighborhoods. What we do know is that it is important to set an example of what our young people can be and what they can do with their life. And there are good jobs in public service. City Hall is not just working with the elected officials to pass policy. We have had more kids in City Hall to give them access to our community pathways than ever before, because we understand that there are good jobs with good resources in addition to health insurance many people don't have. We have to start looking at things differently, looking at the whole person, and that's what we're committed to. Looking at impact for thriving neighborhoods, we've invested more than $3 million in community-led violence prevention and reduction programs. Our Safe and Clean Neighborhood Fund supports and encourages community-based and community-initiated efforts to improve neighborhood safety and eliminate blight. For instance, you all are here and you're part of Downtown Council. The great thing is we have resources that we can give to you all, so you all can then activate and do what you see best. You see what is happening in front of your front door every day, all day. We do not. But what we say is, let's get the resources to the people who are experiencing these situations. Let's find a way to make it easy for you all to act on our behalf. That is why we have Act for Cincy, because it's not about just City Hall. It's about you all being armed with the ability to act yourselves. This year, we provided funding for more than a dozen organizations for a variety of projects like identifying and addressing litter and dumping hotspots in Abigail, Wading Hills, and Evanston. Price Hill Safety, CAT, receives funds to beautify vacant lots and properties with the help of community members and kids in their neighborhood. What better way than to get kids activated to see them be able to do something and change an area in their neighborhood? That's investment. Westwood Works receive funds to remove dead trees that pose a safety risk, particularly to students as they're located near Gamble Montessori. Through our Boots on the Ground Fund, we provided financial support to Whitney Strong, Wesley Chapel Mission Center, Whitney Hills Community Council, Avondale Community Council, Cincinnati Math Lab, Northside Farmers Market, and Madisonville Education and Assistance Center, to name a few. That was more than a few. These grants, all $25,000 or less, go to the organizations out in the community doing the work, engaging communities to address the root cause of gun violence. That might be through youth programming, access to affordable health food, or access to affordable housing. But what we want to hear from our community, that is all of you, is how can we help? Because it is our residents, it is all of you that live here in the city of Cincinnati, that are fellow Cincinnatians who know best what is going on in their neighborhood. We need those voices to make a difference where it matters. We need all of you. That's why venues like this are important for us to show up. As a part of Thriving Neighborhoods, we also focus on how we can help eliminate blight and beautify our neighborhoods. So far this year, we focused our cleanups efforts in North OTR and the West End, with more than 13 pounds of trash collected to date. 13,000 pounds, sorry. I missed the comment, my apologies. Y'all like, that's little, that's really a lot. The Thriving Neighborhoods also focus on economic development, and we're seeing huge investments in our urban core to revitalize existing buildings and remove blight. The urban core is the center of the city's economic production. We know that. transportation, and infrastructure. It's critically important to see our downtown succeed, and we've been part of historic investment in our central business district. Just this year, how many of y'all came to the Macy's headquarters round ribbon cutting? Okay, well, it looks like we gotta call a nuke to get some tours going. What about the new Mercantile Apartments? How many of you been there? Open for residents who want to be part of downtown. And of course, the $828 million transformational investment in the Convention Center District. These are real dollars. We continue to reinforce how important it is to lock up your guns, both at home and if you make the decision to leave your house with one. Now, this is the interesting thing. If you bring your gun in your car, and then you can't take it to where you're going, why are you bringing your gun with you?
Thank you.
That is my question. So what we are continuously doing is trying to communicate. Please, leave it at home.
Why do the cops have them now?
We provide free gun locks at all CPD district headquarters and through the library. CPD also introduced a program to allow firearm owners to temporarily store their firearms securely at CPD for up to 6 months. Kids are getting access to guns too easily. One new intervention we are piloting this summer, and I don't know how you're gonna feel about this, is restricting the use of red bikes and rental e-scooters on weekend. But let me tell you, this idea was something that has been done before with scooters, and I have heard directly from many of you who have said this is an issue. Through problem solving, working with police, collaboration, we're like, let's pilot it and try it. As we were responding to increased crime in our urban core, police told me they observed kids using these easy-to-access modes of transportation to commit property crime. We have seen a reduction in our theft from autos since implementing this measure. Too many guns are stolen from vehicles, and we will make every effort to reduce the likelihood of this happening. The city invested $600,000 in October 2024 to build out the Hope and Shield network as a first response to gun victims who are treated at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and UC Health. In that time, they have expanded staff for this program and enrolled 91 patients. Only one of those patients have been re-injured. We hope that providing victims of gun violence immediate assistance, not just medically, but with a wraparound service for jobs, housing, and mentorship, we can reduce the chance they are victimized again. We have to take care of those who need to be taken care of. We have to give them opportunity. And if the city, the government, is the one to give them hope, we are happy to do that. So let's talk about some of the ways we engage with our youth and provide safe opportunities for them to enrich themselves, be exposed to new paths, and build positive relationships with friends and mentors. We know Recognize has expanded upon this success last year by adding a second location and more programming every Saturday this summer for our young people. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. More than 1,500 kids have attended, representing over 50 neighborhoods in greater Cincinnati and Kentucky. More than 35 high schools represented. Our most recent data from July 12th showed 13% of the kids were new to Recognize. And as we have increased attendance each weekend compared to last year, we have teams of professionals out in the community connecting with our kids and providing resources. This includes our 311 community responders and community care outreach workers led by our Iris Rowley. And career pathways, and we mentioned this earlier. We know the difference in job and income can make in the life of a child. We provide opportunities for hundreds of kids to be introduced to career pathways they may have never imagined for themselves and support their career growth and development to build a pipeline of potential talent for city employment. Looking at our evidence-based policing solution, we have 18 active community problem-oriented policing projects in areas across the city, including Cup, Coreyville, OTR, downtown, Northside, and more. And I'll speak to this more on the next slide, but I've directed staff to explore how we would enforce the current curfew for unaccompanied minors. For several weeks, multiple city departments have been working together to determine how we could successfully and safely enforce a curfew for unaccompanied minors in the city. CPD is reviewing its policies and procedures to determine what adjustments may need to be made with the current existing policy. We have a cross-departmental team discussing enforcement options, including updated ordinances, reaching out to partners for potential collaboration, and researching a potential centralized curfew center. We can provide programming all day long, but when we provide programming and when we get to 12, 1, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, these kids need to be home. How can we do that? How many remember the saying, nothing good happens after 11 o'clock?
What if they don't have a home?
How many remember that? So our job is to get them to a trusted professional, provide those wraparound services, see what we can to make sure that these youth are in safe situations. And that's what we are committed to doing. All this is being done under the legal guidance of the city solicitor. We continue to discuss this internally to make sure we are thorough and thoughtful in our recommendation to council, which will come next month. I'm incredibly proud of the work of my team. We know we have work to do. Not just city staff. All of us have a role to play to reduce violence in our city. When you all are sending emails of suggestions, thank you for that. When you all are seeing somebody and saying something and participating in the community and showing up like this, thank you for that. Because at the end of the day, none of us have said we know all the answers. But when we have community supporting us in these efforts, because we all invested, that's where the successes are. Public safety is our top priority, and we will continue to build upon the pillars of Acrocency to see lasting change in our communities. It makes no sense to do check-the-box exercises. We have to do foundational change. We have to build into those people that don't have. We have to make legacy changes for our city, because anything that is a check-the-box does not last, and we'll be talking about the same thing next year. That does not help any of us. I do not accept the behavior from adults who should be better role models of our kids. I do not accept this one incident that we had this past weekend, and I'm definitely not going to let it define us. I want to thank Chief Theetge and our entire police department for this exceptional work identifying suspects and charging them. We cannot let violence stand, and I will always speak out against it. But the Cincinnati I know, the Cincinnati that is my hometown, the Cincinnati that raised me to be the person that I am, is beautiful. It's thriving. We are good people who care so much that we want to make sure that you hold us accountable. But you do it in a way that is in a spirit of teamwork. And I thank you all for that. We are an inclusive city where neighbors care for one another and care about making this city better for us all. I truly believe in that. And I know we can achieve that together. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? It just doesn't sound like louder. Good evening, everybody. It doesn't sound like it's coming through the speakers. Okay. So, before I get started, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. Thank you, Andrew, for setting this up. I appreciate it. Before I get started into my presentation, I recognize that you all took a lot of time out of your personal lives to be here tonight. I'm sorry, can you hear me in the back? So I'm going to forego the microphone. Can you hear me now? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, before I get started in my presentation, I did want to take a minute to kind of expound upon the comments I made yesterday, reference the Friday night, Saturday morning incident, and then I'll get into the real reason why we're here today. Let me be clear, crystal clear. That was a violent encounter. It makes me sick to watch it over and over again on national news especially. I do not like Cincinnati being portrayed in a negative light on the national news. We can do better. We can do so much better. That being said, I will not tolerate lawlessness on the streets of Cincinnati. I owe it to you, as people who live and work here, to get the lawlessness under control. Okay? Now, I also want to emphasize there is no room for politics in law enforcement. No politics. I know there are many out there who are waiting for me to make a statement from this side denouncing some participants' behavior in that activity. And I know there's some on this side that are waiting for me to denounce the other half of that fight's participation in that activity. Here's where I have to operate, folks. I have to operate in the neutral zone as the facts are being gathered by the investigators. Okay? I cannot make a personal opinion to influence an investigation one way or the other. And I can't allow anybody else to do that either. We have to be free of the politics to come to a resolution on all crime, all the time. Right? So the investigators are here tonight. I will tell you, we signed charges on 5 individuals from that incident. 2 of them are in custody now. And the 3rd one, we are facilitating a surrender, hopefully for tonight or tomorrow. So 3 of the 5 hopefully will be in custody very, very shortly. When a crime is committed, we have to look at the laws on the books, and we have to make sure that the elements of the crime are met before we attempt to arrest or prosecute. If the elements are not there, it is unethical for the officers to sign charges that they cannot make in court. So I just wanted to get that out for all of you. The work is still being done. We are not finished, but we are operating in a neutral zone until all the facts are known to us. All right? So with that, I'll get to my presentation. I'll stay up. Can you guys still hear me in the back? If I start to fade, somebody raise their hand. All right. So this is CBS's information. We've been reporting out on the data every 2 weeks for the last, I believe, 6 weeks maybe.
Microphone.
The microphone's not working.
There's 150 people outside, so I just asked that you speak up so we can hear.
All right.
At certain points, she can't speak up. It's got
Andrew, not sure if you have a way to address that.
It's being live streamed by a number of members already.
Okay.
He's not wrong for
All right. So this is the data that we've been reporting out for several weeks now on a regular cadence. This is specific to the central business section where most of you call home. You can see the red indicates areas where we're up. We are up in some areas in the central business section. We acknowledge that. We own that. And that's why we are putting strategies together to combat that. Okay? You guys have probably all heard about the Street Crimes Task Force that has been out for almost a month now on a full-time basis. That's one of the many strategies, I should say, that we're using to combat this, and we'll get into that a little bit more on a later slide. Okay? This is the reported property crime. The reason, in my opinion, one of the reasons for you folks in this room that I think property crime is very important to you, there is greater odds that you will be the victim of a property crime versus a violent crime, such as a shooting. There is a greater possibility that your car may be broken into than that you will be shot. Okay? So I recognize how important what we're doing around property crime is to you. So you can see here, every summer, we know we're going to have a spike in this area. We know that. The data tells us that.
Yeah.
This year, we saw a bigger spike than we anticipated, and we needed to react to that. One of those reactions was the Street Crime Task Force. So step back here for a minute. This first line here, that's when school ended for the school year. This is when the task force was put into operation. The dark blue is 2025, the light blue is 2024's data. You can see, since the task force has been in operation, the direct impact they've had on property crime in CBS. That doesn't mean that they're only operating down here. They have citywide responsibilities. But looking at data, we now know the best time for them to deploy downtown, large-scale events, weekend nights. They look at the data, and by them reading the data and coming up with their strategies for deployment, right now it's showing us it's working. Okay? So the task force isn't just the only thing we're going to use to try to combat the property crime down here, or any type of crime. Cincinnati Police Department has been committed to problem solving for over 20 years. What that means to you is every district and section commander, such as Captain Henney, should know what's going on in their district and how can I address it. What is my problem-solving effort around this issue that we are seeing right now? So for the CBS right now specifically, special events, you guys have them down here all the time. This past weekend was one of our busiest every year. Music Festival weekend. We had a Reds game. We had the Big Three basketball tournament. Great events for our city. Brings people from all over the country to Cincinnati. Those are required detail. Police officers to work those details. You see them when you're at the Reds games or Bengals games. Cincinnati, sometimes complemented with Hamilton County Sheriffs. We share those responsibilities. Additional staffing contingencies. The district commanders are given a pot of money every couple of months to manage paying overtime for officers to be in the right places at the right moment. That's above and beyond their normal 40 hours a week with us. Okay, so this is overtime that they can use for that. How many of you in here are familiar with our tow detail? Down at the banks mostly. Yeah. So what we found was last year when we started having real problems like late night hours at Smale Park, Freedom Way, those areas, is people were choosing to just park wherever they wanted, where there was no parking zones, and get out, party, visit, be in the park after hours, any of those types of activities. So what we did last year, kind of on a trial basis, and it seemed to have made an impact, and we're doing it this year, is a tow detail. So what that means now is on Friday and Saturday nights, we have a contingent of officers who are assigned the responsibility of just monitoring parking violations. We have tow trucks on standby so that when you get a parking violator, they come in, they get that car, and get it out. Because all it takes is one or two to start parking illegally, And before you know it, you got 10, 12, or 15 of them. So as soon as they park illegally, we tow them out of there. What that also requires then, though, is now our impound lot has to stay open all night on Friday and Saturday nights to take these cars in and potentially release them when owners show up to claim them. So that has been working in the Banks area. Also, the specialty units. You guys on the weekend, you get a lot of love from the police department with our resources. You'll see our CDRT, our Civil Disturbance Response Team down there. They're accompanied by members from our SWAT team, Special Weapons and Tactics. They pair together because they are really good at crowd control situations. What they're best at is making sure we don't get to that area where large crowds out of control. They can kind of take a temperature of what's going on, address it as things pop up. Your captain here, your section commander, Captain Henney, is a critical piece of that infrastructure with the CDRT and SWAT. He's out many, many nights with those individuals. So the downtown gets a lot of attention from those individual officers, but they do have responsibilities in some other areas too if needed. The Street Crimes Task Force, we just talked about that. You guys get a lot of attention from them as well. Some of them are uniformed, some of them are undercover. You might not even know they're there sometimes. They were working this past weekend. I was out Friday night working, and they were busy. They had a great impact Friday night during the Reds game and the music festival. And then we also have our vice unit for do the liquor establishment checks. They have the ability to work with the Ohio Investigative Unit for liquor enforcement issues, and they are the ones that then monitor compliance with the liquor establishments so that when their licenses come up for renewal, the city administration has a good working knowledge of, is this liquor establishment a good partner for CBS or are they not? If not, what can we do to gain compliance? And if that doesn't work, then we might have to go after their liquor license. Okay. So some of our problem-solving efforts. The police visibility overtime, I just told you about that, the overtime bucket that the commanders get. Our problem-solving efforts, Captain Henney has been working on this. We'll use like the government square with the kids after school as an example. That takes a lot of time and effort to know what's going on and how do we design a response to have the greatest positive impact for you. The routine high visibility patrols, CBS, downtown, it's very unique. And lots of parts of downtown are walkable for the officers. Some are not. So we have, do you see the new trikes that we have? Those are super cool. It's a great way for the officers to get from point A to point B. They really like those. Investigations and arrest. We are always looking at the investigations. Arrest if necessary to hold somebody accountable if they broke the law. Again, you have Officer Johnson and Officer Blank here tonight, investigators for CBS. Hopefully not many of you don't know them because that means you weren't a victim of a crime. So, the roving task force, we already covered that. The drone program. How many have heard of our drone program? It is super cool. It is really, really super cool. So these are drones as first responders, which is different than just having a drone as a tool for cops to put up when they need it. These are drone operators that sit behind a computer and deploy the drone when we have a call for service. It's designed to be a first responder to hopefully alleviate some of the calls for service demands on our uniform patrol so they can address more significant calls for service. The Fusus camera expansion. How many people have heard of Fusus? All right, hopefully when you leave here tonight, the next time somebody asks that question, a whole lot more hands will go up. So I'm going to kind of oversimplify this because technology is not necessarily my friend, but the way it works, if you have a business, let's just use the library as an example. If the library has cameras on the exterior, on the inside, they can join our Fusus platform. They would just need to get a modem from us. And what it does then, it lets the officers have real-time access to your camera footage. So if something is going on, they can start watching. Maybe you make a call for somebody who just stole your wallet from the library. They can access the library's cameras and start watching that person and where they're going before uniformed officers actually are in the library. So that's kind of the concept. There is a model for businesses and a model for residents. You can get one for your home as well if you'd like. Manpower. This is probably the biggest question I get. Are we understaffed? Yes. But I will tell you, we are doing everything in our power to bring our staffing level up. We just started last Monday, like 9 days ago, a recruit class, and we started 58 people. Every recruit class, we lose a couple. They might be a couple weeks in and go, it's not what I thought it was, it's too much for me, I need to go back to my old job. Or maybe by the end of it, academically or physically, they're not cutting it and we need to let them go. But we are doing everything in our power to have class after class after class. This recent council on the current budget, we have the recruit class that's in now. We will be having a lateral class. We are hopefully going to start that in January of 26. That's going to be really good for us because it's the first time where we can take experienced officers from other states and bring them here to Cincinnati. They will go through rigorous training. They will be taught everything that makes us unique, and then they can become patrol officers in a shorter period of time than our traditional 7-month recruit class. And then as soon as that's all done, we're coming right back in with another class, another traditional class. We're already taking applications for that. In the central business section, you guys are unique, and that we find this is probably the best place where our mountain bike officers can work because of the density of downtown. So Captain Henney has the bike unit. And then for the problem solving too, the city manager briefly touched on it, but the curfew. The curfew. I am all about stealing an idea from another city if they have shown that it works. I talked to the police chief in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They've made a change to their already enacted ordinance, brought it back here, talked to the city, and we are now working through what could that look like in Cincinnati. So some changes to the current curfew ordinance. And then last on here, anybody who has listened to me talk probably in the last year, I'm talking about parental accountability. I need some way to have an adult be accountable for some of the kids' behaviors. And when I say adults, that should not be the police. That should not be the police. We have stepped into that role while we're trying to figure out how's the best way to hold parents accountable. Again, I have to work with the laws that are on the books, or I have to make an effort to change a law. If it's not working for us, then let's work on changing it. All right? That's all I have. I'll turn it over to Steve Leeper.
Thank you, Chief. If there are any questions that have been written down, please pass them to our 3 designated DRC members. We want to make sure that we can collect them in time for question and answer. I believe now we're moving over to the mayor. Molly? And if you have questions, please raise your hand. We'll make sure to collect them.
I'm sorry.
Questions are restricted to downtown residents and stakeholders. We respectfully request the media withhold their questions.
I really want to thank the entire Downtown Residents Council, especially Andrew and the leadership team for your work to organize this over the past couple months, but also for everything you do to be at the table and partner on our major priorities in the urban core. And it's not lost on anyone here that for everything else that we care about as a community, none of it works unless crime is under control and residents feel safe. I'm sure that a lot of you share the frustration, the anger, and the deep concern that for all the investment and growth and momentum that's building downtown, violence and crime and public safety challenges are a threat to everything else we do. That's why our city leadership, our law enforcement, and our partners have been unrelenting since the extremely concerning trend we began seeing at the start of the summer to create the new Street Crimes Task Force and CPD that the chief just spoke about, and proactively going after the street level crime our residents have been victim to institute new directed walking patrols in parts of our urban core at the direct request of our residents and business owners, and to have challenging conversations around new policy interventions like enforcing a curfew. We ask a lot of our officers, especially right now, and I'm extremely proud of the work they have done to keep folks safe and combat crime. Throughout this, it has been our commitment not just to get crime under control, but also to make sure we are frequently communicating to residents what we're doing and where we are every step of the way. Through bi-weekly public updates on our crime stats, on our latest strategies, and through conversations with local residents and small businesses about the challenges that they're experiencing. We are proud that we've made significant progress on many of these challenges, but there is a lot of work still to do, and we understand that, and none of us are going to let up on this. So thank you for being here and being part of the conversation. Thank you to the city manager and the chief for your comments and all of your hard work. And now I'll pass it over to Steve Leeper of 3CDC. Thank you.
Determine this is not working?
I think you might have to project, sorry.
Okay. I'm not quite as loud as the chief, but I will try to be. And I want to be able to get to these questions and answers, hopefully answers to your questions. But we have been here before. I've been involved with the city for 20 years. If we look back what happened 20 years ago. And you look, I'm Steve Leeper with the Cincinnati Center City Development Corporation. So we do development work in downtown and over the Rhine. So she wanted to know who I was. Okay, how about I stand here? Is that better? Okay. So we've been here at this for 20 years, and if we can all recall what was happening, particularly at that time, there was major disinvestment north of Central Parkway and over the Rhine. It was a condition that was unacceptable. The activity and crime that was going on there is reflective of some of the things we see today. It was unacceptable then, it's unacceptable now. I can tell you that 3CDC and the work that we have with our ambassadors, we have over 40 ambassadors deployed every day, both in the Central Business District and over the Rhine. And we need to look at those two together because the line of demarcation is Central Parkway, but it's really invisible. It's the same neighborhood. But what you're feeling now is legitimate and real. Those two homicides were a wake-up call in over the Rhine several weeks ago, one of which was a 16-year-old that worked for us as a community worker. It was absolutely tragic. What we saw this weekend was pathetic. It literally was pathetic. And there were cowards that were involved in that whole episode that does not define us. But I can tell you that the police chief, the city manager, and the mayor, and ourselves, as well as everybody here, is on this. And we need to make sure that we are deploying people in the right locations. We have a sense downtown where our challenges are. Court Street remains to be a challenge. Hyatt Park remains to be a challenge. The banks in certain sections remains a challenge. And Government Square is a challenge. And we're well aware of that. And we're working with Metro to make some changes. The liquor store has been relocated. It's, I think, in a better location there. We all need a liquor store there. Let's not, particularly, but I think there's going to be changed practices there. I think there's movement between Metro and how they are going to allow students to transfer this year and limit the transfers, only letting those that can transfer to transfer there. So we're working on that as well. We're working, as we have, with the chief to have foot patrols and over the Rhine. We hope we can get a couple in downtown as well, because we think it's needed. But in addition to all this policing and ambassadorial and clean and safe, the ultimate solution here is continued investment. And we could not change over the Rhine through a police officer everywhere all the time. We need people here, and people and eyes on the street is ultimately, as Jane Jacobs said many years ago, is the ultimate solution.
Yes, she was
Okay.
named for that. It's just,
Well, she was very good.
she saved and had.
Yes, she did. And I think she has the vision that we all sort of need to have, and we need to continue our reinvestment efforts, particularly like this area of town. It's dormant. This blighted building across the street, these surface parking lots, these vacant buildings. We need to do our job. We need to do better. We need to do faster. And I can tell you, we have the support of the city manager and her economic development team have been great. City council has been nothing but supportive. And so to the sense that we have not progressed on certain things, it's not from the lack of support from the city. And so you need to challenge us. We need to continue to do a better job. We need to continue the programming. I think having that dormant part of the convention district while the construction's going on has not been helpful either. That will change here at the end of the year. So I do think we need to build on our momentum. We need to recognize we have a problem. We need to listen to what you have to say, and we need to take some actions, some of which will work and some of which may not be successful. But we need to keep trying. So thanks for your support. Thanks for being here. Thanks for challenging us. And maybe we should get to the question, part of the question.
Thank you to each of our speakers for being here tonight. We'll now move into our moderated question and answer program for the evening. Again, moderated question and answer is limited to the written questions that are submitted on the cards. If you need a card, our Downtown Residents Council will ensure that they're provided to you. And again, we'll be roaming throughout the room to collect them. But again, please write down your question and note who it's to, and we'll make sure that it's addressed. If we can't get to all questions this evening, we will ensure these questions are submitted to our panelists so we can provide follow-up information to you that impacts our central business district. We'll now move into moderated question and answer. I'll do my best to direct these questions as they are received. Yes, if the panelists would like to sit down, you can also grab water too.
I'm happy to sit down, but if you feel like you can't hear us, please let us know. We'll get up and walk closer.
Chief Theetge, our first question is for you. Where is the police data coming from that's reported out in presentations like this?
So the question was, where's the police data coming from that we report out to you, such as what I did today? So we have a unit within the police department. It's our Crime Analysis and Problem Solving Unit. We call it CAPS for short. This is a unit of civilian staff members, these are not police officers, that are trained in data gathering, data analysis, and the unbelievable skill set that they have too is to understand police operations. So they don't just read the data for us, they tell us what that data means to us when we're going out trying to combat crime or blight or things like that. So that all of our data comes from our CAPS.
Thank you, Chief. Our next question is, Chief, for you or City Manager Long. What can be done about the late night motorcycles and unroadworthy vehicles speeding down one-ways in the central business district? I'm happy to take your question, Allie, and read it.
Who are we protecting? Who are we serving? Why is it violence when it's the people of the city and not violence when it's against black and brown people in the city? I am a citizen. I live on Ray Street.
Allie, thank you so much for your question.
Fuck ICE! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Fuck ICE! Fuck CPD! Free Palestine! Fuck ICE! Fuck CPD! Free Palestine!
We'd like to get back to our moderated question and answer for our downtown residents and stakeholders that are here. I'll repeat the question. Chief and/or City Manager Long, what can be done about the motorcycles and unroadworthy vehicles that are speeding and generating large amounts of noise, especially down our one-ways in the central business district?
Thank you, Andrew. So the question is, what can we do about the speeding motorcycles and unroadworthy vehicles going up and down the streets of downtown? So this is not something that is isolated in downtown. We see it a bit in other parts of our city. And so there's really two parts that we have to look at from this. Is what they're doing illegal or not? Obviously, we have to look at that. We also have to look at the safety of enforcement at that moment. That does not mean we ignore what they're doing, but what is the safest, least risk involved to the drivers, the officers, and potential innocent bystanders if we take enforcement action? What we know is quite often if we go to stop those motorcycles, they are taken off. They are taken off. So that's where I'm talking about risk assessment. The officers are expected to do a risk assessment immediately. What time of day is this happening? Day of the week? What's the road conditions, the weather conditions? What's the crowd look like? Pedestrians. They have to look at all of that. If they determine that those are the things I just talked about exist, their best course of action is to try to get a license plate. We can always go get them later. And if they can't get a license plate, then we start looking at our cameras throughout the city to see, did that motorcycle get picked up somewhere? What was the license plate? Who's it registered to? And then we go after the vehicle. Even if we can't, maybe a later date, say, you were driving that motorcycle, so you're getting the ticket. What oftentimes hurts them more, we'll say, your motorcycle was involved in this, so we're taking your motorcycle. Yes. We're taking your motorcycle. Because they invest a lot of money in those things.
Thank you, Chief. Next question. Chief and/or City Manager Long, what can be done to hold parents accountable for kids who are out after curfew?
So I'll start this one because this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. How many people in here have raised children who are adults now? I raised 4. And they are leading good lives here in Cincinnati right now. And they have my grandchildren. I hope they learn some parenting skills from me that they will pass to my grandchildren. One of them is accountability. You mess up, you misbehave, you've got a price to pay. That's the way I raise my kids. That's the way I want them raising my grandkids. I don't think that is too much to ask of every parent in this city. Know where your kid is, know what they're doing, know who they're with. And don't just know what they're doing when they're out of the house. Know what they're doing when they're in the house. You got a 14-year-old? Look through the room. What they got in the room? Something they shouldn't have? Do they have a phone? Are they on social media? What are they doing on their social media accounts? Parents should be looking at all of that. All of that. So what we're doing now, we're kind of just in the infancy stages of it, but working with our law department to give the police a tool to hold parents accountable. Remember earlier I talked about we have to work within the confines of the current laws that are on the books. So if I want to hold a parent accountable for something, I need to make sure the law supports that before I can charge them with something. So that's where we are now, attempting to get stronger legislation for that.
Mr. Leeper, the next question is... Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. And to support what the chief said, look, the city is at this point because we've done problem solving to get us here. I've been city manager for going on 3 years. We started off by saying, okay, everybody said kids have nowhere to go. So what do? We asked council to give us resources so we could provide programming. That programming is being done through Boots on the Ground, through Safe and Clean, in addition to, we opened our rec centers. Later, We've also then expanded the following year to say, okay, we're gonna open our parks. Because kids, guess what? They go to parks, surprise, right? But what we realized is that kids didn't have anything to do with the parks, so we provided programming with that. We are providing programming that is at a decent hour. So we provided through funding others, again, utilizing community, and then saying we need to step up, government. And so we've done that. And now we are here. We don't believe in just acting knee-jerk. We have been completely, every single year, starting in January, to look at the summer and say, what did the data show us last year and what do we need to do? And we have been fortunate to have a mayor and council who've given me the resources to say, okay, this is where we need to represent, it needs to go to. But now we're at the place where we need help. And that is where we have to give the chief the tools, parental supports, working with our schools, working with our courts, working with the prosecutor. This is not just a city problem. There are many people that are in the space of government that we are rolling up at the table and inviting and saying, let's help problem solve together. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Long. Mr. Leeper, the next question is for you. Can you address current staffing levels of the Downtown Ambassador Program and what the confines and parameters are of that program?
Like a loaded question. Yes, I can. So we employ, I just happen to have that here. We employ about 42 ambassadors downtown. 42 ambassadors downtown. Now, of that 42, about 35 of them are full-time, and then the balance are part-time. We spend about, $2.4 million a year on that program. Of our downtown improvement district, about 84% of the proceeds from that district goes to pay the folks in the street. And of those employees that we have, 60% of them are second chance and third chance employees. And you know what? They know how to do this as well as anybody. And they're not fortunate for us to give them that job. We're fortunate to have them because they're the first lines of defense supporting the chief and others and the staff out there trying to do the job of not only keeping it clean, safe, and hopefully helpful to you. We also have a series of ambassadors in over the Rhine, which includes Washington Park. The funding for that program has been steady. Thanks to the downtown business and property owners, we passed our levy again this year, so the assessment's going to go through again. We just passed the one in over the Rhine, well over 70%, and that's because people see some value in the work that particularly our ambassadors are doing. We also have 6 outreach workers that are from Greater Behavioral, who are professional in dealing with folks who have challenges in their lives. And again, trying to support the police and the ambassadors, they're dealing with people who have either mental health or alcohol or addiction challenges. We have more work to do. We should target it in maybe certain locations, and we constantly are looking, do we deploy them in the right places? We've moved 2 of our best ambassadors up onto Court Street, which we think continues to be a challenge for all of us, mostly dealing with quality of life issues there. But we also have folks that we need to deploy around the Fountain District because that's where we have our events, that's where we have a lot of visitors coming, and that's where we need the support. So we'll continue the program, and we are always willing to listen to how we might be able to improve it.
Thank you. One for a follow-up question. What are the hours of the ambassadors in downtown Cincinnati over the Rhine?
Yeah, so the ambassadors in over the Rhine, we have multiple shifts. So in downtown, the vast majority of the first shift is, we probably have 13, I think, Dave. Are you right? On the first shift, I think we have 13 ambassadors, and then maybe 9 on the second shift. Depends if we have an event or not. And then we actually have people on third shift that are around Fountain Square and focus on Government Square. So we have 24-hour coverage, both and primarily in downtown and to some extent in Over the Rhine.
Thank you.
What are they doing? Sorry, what are your ambassadors doing? What is their job?
Their job is they're cleaning garbage. They are engaging with customers. They're engaging with folks who might be having challenges in their life. They are providing customer service if people need direction, want to know if somebody needs escorted to their car, they will escort them to their car. So I think they're goodwill ambassadors, but they are physically taking on matters that oftentimes put them in harm's way. We should all be cognizant of that, because when we're talking about the events that occur, a lot of our colleagues are in harm's way, and we worry about them each and every day.
Thank you. To only add, the Downtown Residents Council is very pleased to partner with our Downtown Ambassador Program. The Downtown Ambassadors provide a vital service to everyone that visits our downtown core, not just residents, including safety services. Our Downtown Ambassadors will ensure is that if you want a safety escort from your parking garage to the Aronoff Theater, or need help walking back from a bar at night to your residence, we'll make sure is that you can get to and from that place to the place that you're going. We deeply value our Downtown Ambassador Program. They are our eyes and ears on the street. Our next question is for the chief and city manager. What is being done in respect to nuisance businesses or businesses with repeat liquor license violations and or fire capacity violations at their place of business?
So I'll give you the perspective from law enforcement, but then at a point we hand it off to city law department and the manager will address that. So I told you we have vice units. One of the things they do is go out and do liquor checks for compliance, along with our partners at the state level, because they can issue citations, violations right there on the spot. So we have our vice units that are out there working. We have our neighborhood officers who are familiar with the bars, the problems that residents have with the bars, things like that, so they can address it from that level also. If we know we have a problem bar, one of the first things we need to do is start documenting. Because that's then when we take that documentation and hand it off to the manager who gives it to the law department to start working from that perspective.
Yes, absolutely. That is why it's very important when we talk about 311 to utilize those systems so that we can have enough on these bars to be able to trigger a nuisance complaint. It is not enough to just say to complain to someone unless we have the legal justification to do so. Now, let's be clear, there are hours of operations that bars can be open in. We are expecting people to be dancing and having a good time, so there may be at times for it to be noisy. But what we need is our bar owners to work in collaboration with us to make sure they're serving people that are legal, to make sure they're not over-serving, to make sure they're being compliant and being a good partner, because at the end of the day, we want people to entertain in our city. If it gets to the point where there's a lot of complaints and it triggers a nuisance, we can then challenge the liquor license to the state. Now that authorization, what we would do is make a recommendation to say no, especially if it's a new liquor license or it's a renewal liquor license, to object. We then give that to city council votes on it, it goes on to the state, and then that from there, it is essentially out of our hands. But again, it is important that we have the support in any nuisance property to be able to activate, and the only way to do that is for us to have a record, and that is through 311 that you do that.
Thank you. Chief and/or City Manager Long, this next question is for you. What resources are available to Cincinnati police officers to ensure safety and well-being, especially mental health and morale?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I appreciate whoever asked that question. Thank you for thinking about the officers. I really do appreciate that. I think oftentimes they get kind of left behind. So the question was, what are we doing, the department, the city, for officer wellness? So I think we're going on probably about 4 years ago. Let me go back a little bit more in time. I've been on 35 years. And probably about 8 years ago, we had a sergeant who took his own life while he was working. That was traumatic for us. In my 35 years, that's the first one that had occurred while we were working. That was traumatic. What I started doing, it was under Chief Isaac's leadership at the time, is he allowed me to start talking about, with all the resources that we had. We have a very robust police clergy team. They're amazing. We have a good peer support team, officers. They're amazing. We have the public employees assistance program through the city, another resources for city employees. What we didn't have was all of those resources working together. They were all in silos at the time. So I asked Chief Isaac if I could take on something around officer wellness. What we saw too was during COVID, law enforcement across the country were losing officers to suicide. Losing officers to suicide because of what they were asking them to do. This is extremely important to me because my father served with the Cincinnati Police Department, and many, many years after he was gone, he took his own life. And nobody will ever convince me that that did not have something to do with his career. So this is very personal for me and for my family. I have siblings that were in law enforcement. I have a third generation that is serving this city now. So it's very important to me. But what we've done now, we've really moved the needle on this, folks. We've moved it really, really far. We have an officer wellness unit. It started as a person of one, a civilian woman in our personnel department who just was passionate about this topic. She started building it and building it, so we created an officer wellness unit. She now has an officer that works with her. He has our therapy dog. We have programming that is unbelievable for officers. Financial wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness. We have resources for all of that. But the other thing that we have what we call the Cortico app. It's an app that officers can use 24/7, officers and their families, and it is not cheap. We fund it every year. Officers and their family can get on the app, do a self-assessment, maybe where they are mentally. They can look for already vetted resources who are very good with first responders, and so they have the ability to do that. We have a team, a very strong critical incident team, that if we have a critical incident tonight, they are activated right away to get to that district, because it might be the whole relief that is troubled by some critical incident that they just witnessed. So we have team members that they can activate right away. And we're not stopping. That's where we've come in a short period of time, and we are open to growing those resources as much as we possibly can.
Sorry, that was my question. I was just mostly speaking to like, you know, know you mentioned overtime and things like that. Like, I know being in that field, like fatigue, compassion fatigue also sets in. So those programs are awesome. I wonder, are they advertised? Are they promoted? Are they like encouraged?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a monthly newsletter that our wellness unit puts out. So they talk about all the resources there. Our FOP is part of the messaging. They have the ability to communicate it out. One of the things that we did when we built out this unit is I needed somewhere to put them. I needed office space. We put them at our police academy, and that was by design because every member of our police department has to walk through the doors of the academy at least twice a year for continual training. And so that puts them where the officers are so that they potentially won't miss anybody, or the officers, they kind of already have a reason to be in that building, so now they can slide away and go see somebody from the wellness unit without raising a bunch of red flags to their coworkers.
Chief Theetge, thank you for sharing. Our next question, what is the public safety strategy at the banks? Chief and/or city manager, that is directed to you.
Well, I'll take it first. So how many people here live at the banks? Some of you live down there? Okay, great, great. I personally think that would be an amazing place to live. I really do. So there's many levels to this, okay? We talk about SEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. That's an area where we have people who have expertise in that. Sometimes it's as simple as when a building is being constructed or landscaping, hardscaping is being done, let the police come and tell you, how will this affect public safety if you build it this way versus this way? So that's one way we can do it. The other thing is more police presence. The PDO I talked about, putting officers down there where they need to be. Captain Henney and his team have a great relationship with the banks working group and the leadership that runs the banks, the apartments and all of that. The restaurants are interested, obviously, in public safety. That's why you saw earlier this year the restrictions go into place for, gotta be 21 or over to get into that restricted area in the DORA. That was by design to increase public safety. I don't know if you have a-
Yeah, I mean, there are many things that are, the police and the city manager's office, we are working, the law department working hand in hand. As the chief mentioned, we activated pretty quickly the 21 and under because we noticed that there was a lot of children going into areas that they should not be. So working with the banks and the bar owners that are there, and we were able to have them, they issued a permit to be able to secure that area, to make sure people that are supposed to be in there are of age. Also another thing is, for instance, the towing. There was a lot of cars that were just sitting along the banks that were just sitting there. So we entered a tow pilot, so that allows us to get rid of those cars that are just sitting there in that area that are not being used. So what we are continuing to do is problem solve in that area and really figure out, when we talk about the curfew, is there something that we can do to incorporate the banks area as well? Those are things that are on the table. So there will be more things that will be following that. It is close to the parks, right? So we have to control when kids and how kids can navigate through it and if they should. But at the end of the day, we understand that grown people want to have fun and do age-appropriate things, but there are places where the children should not be. So we will continue to commit to that and problem solve around that.
Thank you, City Manager Long. Our next question is for Mr. Leeper. What are we doing to promote equitable development in Over the Rhine and the Central Business District?
Question is, what are we doing to promote equitable development in Over the Rhine and Central Business District? And that is pretty obvious. I mean, we've developed $2 billion worth of development over the last 20 years. And Over the Rhine, we have about 450 affordable housing developments that we've built and own or built with other developers. We obviously were working with the city, redeveloped both Washington Park and Ziegler Park, and programming in those parks really is focused on a diversity of programming. What we do in Over the Rhine and Ziegler Park is we have 600 kids taking swim lessons every year. We have a free summer camp for kids. We have programming throughout the year, both in Washington Park. I think if anybody walks into any of those parks, particularly Washington Park, is probably the most democratic spot in the city where people of all walks of life are there. We have built, working with both the Shelter House and with folks at City Gospel Mission, we built, financed, designed, funded $42 million worth of facilities, 3 comprehensive residential and service facilities for the homeless. And those homes and the operators there are providing options for those that are in greatest of need. Our employment practices, as I said earlier, is focused on those that need second or third chances in their lives, those that need recovery, that are suffering and are experiencing recovery are also employees of ours. Lastly, I will state that, you know, if you look at our tenancy and our real estate and our street level spaces, and Over the Rhine, about 25% of our businesses are black owned, or in the case of about 40% are female owned. So those are just some of our initiatives.
Thank you. Our next question is for Chief Theetge. Chief, were there any calls to 911 or 311 regarding noise or other complaints on Friday night or Saturday evening preceding the events that took place early Saturday morning?
So the question was, I'm sorry.
Yes, there were calls starting at midnight.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. The question was calls to 911 or 311, noise and, I'm sorry, the rest of it.
Noise or disorder
Disorder.
on 4th Street.
Okay. Downtown was hopping. I'm sure you guys know that, you live there. Downtown was hopping. It was loud, it was crowded, it was noisy, cars were loud. I saw it, I was down there. What I do know, I do not have with me in front of me, like how many calls for noise or disorder during the whatever hours you want to talk about. We can easily get that for you. But what I do know, the incident that took place at 4th and Elm, there was one call to police for an assault report. There was another call that was not to the police, that was a medical run for the fire department. I believe it came out as cardiac arrest, don't quote me on that. So for that incident specifically, one call to the police, one call to fire.
Thank you, Chief. City Manager Long and/or Chief Theetge, our next question, we have time for 2 more questions. Our next question is, what does partnership and ongoing collaboration look like between the city, Cincinnati police, and the Downtown Residents Council and community? And how will that be measured?
I'll start here. We are for collaboration because, as I mentioned early, Cincy is spirit of where we cannot do the work without the help of the community. You see it, you feel it, you touch it, and we have to be able to provide you, working with the mayor and council, those resources so you can do what you need to be done. I don't know if you all have qualified or have put any formal applications. We have community budget requests. During community budget requests, during our budget season, we are looking for organizations to tell us what their need is. We would love to be able to partner with you. If there's, for instance, I got requests for speed cushions and speed humps. Community budget requests can help fund those. I got requests for if there's something for safety, timing, things like that. That can, timing, safety, lights, things, traffic technology. Community budget requests can fund those. We need to get you all around the table working with our budget team so that you can give us that information so we can help support you all to help the work, continue the work that we're done. Safe and clean, boots on the ground. Those are all things that we would love to see you all activate. Council is consistently giving me funding for those. The applications are available. We need you all to tell us what you need. It makes no sense for us to be prescriptive because we don't know. So what I would tell you is I'm going to make a commitment for my team. Kate, raise your hand. So you didn't know I loved that. Kate, raise your hand. We will make sure that we will work with Andrew to engage with you all, especially when, and to put you all in the right places so that when those appropriate times come, so we can give you the resources and make sure we continue this conversation. I apologize if you had to summons us here for you to know what is going on. But we will make sure that we will have a commitment to continue to have this flow of communication with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, if you'd like that, Kim.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to that. So obviously you guys are familiar with the community council forum that the city has, all the neighborhoods have, because you're here. So the city has 52 very distinct neighborhoods, very different concerns, very different expectations, and issues that they want to address. That's awesome. That is awesome for us. We get to work in 52 diverse and communities with different needs. What that means, though, is the biggest partnership, the most effective partnership we can have is with our officers going to the community council meetings. But to get the most out of that, we need the community members to get involved with their community councils so that we don't have to go trying to find people. We'll come meet you where you are. And the best place for that is at your community council meeting. One other thing I want to touch about, like you talk about partnerships, I want to leave this here with you guys. I'll leave at least one with Andrew so you can. We talked about the fuses. Right now, that's the modem so that we can have access to your cameras. You will still have all your privacy rights, and I don't want to scare anybody away from it under the guide of us accessing your cameras. But That right now is probably one of the best ways you could partner with us when it comes to public safety, is through the FUSIS platform. And if you need more information about that, maybe the next meeting or something, we can have somebody in our department who's really the subject matter expert on that attend for you.
And to expand what the chief said, we are working with the mayor and council because we don't want to have barriers for you all, some of you all, to get the technology if it is needed. So we're working with the chief to give us an idea of what would be needed as far as an investment so that she can assist with getting you all, at least for a short period of time, helping with the cost of whether it's a modem or something like that to participate in the usage as well. So that is something that is a priority that we have already been talking about and that we are just waiting for the information for.
City Manager Long, Chief Theetge, thank you. Our final question is, will the materials that were presented tonight be available that the DRC can disseminate them to their members?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. That concludes our time and allotment for moderating question and answer. We understand that there were many questions that were submitted before this event, but also during the event that transparently we just couldn't get to. The Downtown Residents Council is committed to collecting those. Myself, Chase, Sue Byram, Jim Beering, and our Downtown Residents Council team will be here to collect those questions following this forum to ensure that we can continue that ongoing collaboration and partnership with the city. Before we close, I want to take a minute to formally thank and dismiss our panelists. On behalf of the Downtown Residents Council and everyone in attendance, we appreciate your time, your insight, your leadership.